could you say that? You don't know me. You don't know my name. You don't know, my story, what I'm about. And the reason why I can say that is because I know each one of you, of what you have emotionally felt. I wish I could see your hands. How many of you have ever been betrayed by someone? And I suspect that maybe several hands go up. I know exactly what that feels like. That stabbing pain of, are you kidding me? Them? Really? Wow. I've shared that emotion myself, so I know exactly what that feels like. I know you because of that. Oh, I know that you've also had a victory somewhere in your life. You won a baseball game, or you got an A in a test, or you got a job, or whatever. You had a victory in your life. You know, the kind where you want to just pound on the steering wheel and go, yes. I know exactly what that feeling feels like. And I felt it myself. And that, along with betrayal, gives me compassion for you. I've also felt blue, depressed, or sad for like no reason. And you just, gosh, it's just restless and irritable. You just want to walk around. I felt that myself. I know another feeling that you felt, which makes me know you. I've fallen in love. You know, that infatuation where from across the room you go, oh my goodness, look at that person. And then you get to know them a little bit, and you just open your heart and you say, I would do anything for them. I would chase them across the cover of the earth, toward them. That infatuation feeling, I felt that too. I know exactly what that feels like. We share that in common. In fact, of the tens of thousands of potential emotions that we felt over the course of our lifetime, I felt them too as a human being. So because I know all those emotions you felt, I feel like I already know you, and we have a lot in common. And so that's why I love you, is because I know you. I wish I could get together with each one of you and ask the stories which cause those emotions to get to know something else about you. But at least I know the emotions you felt, and that makes us, all the same. I need to put into practice what I'm saying. So you don't just read this as, yeah, of course he'd say that, whatever. So let me put it into action and prove it to you. If you guys have a piece of paper and a pen, or get it from somebody else, I'm going to give you a phone number, and that's 530-615-1427. That's 530-615-1427. That is my cell phone number. After today, if life comes up against you and you need to talk, call me. No charge, no obligation. I'm here because I love you, because I care. I want nothing out of it. I just want to show up for you because I care about you. So there's a bunch of really great questions that you guys have asked me, and I looked at them all and I categorized them, and I discovered that 2 or 3 of the questions were kind of the same questions. So I kind of collapsed them, and I'm going to address them. I prepared this to say, you asked, what path did I take to become a coach, and what inspired me to do so? So I'm going to go as fast as I can to give you the background. My father was a general building contractor and a butcher. So at 4 in the morning, he'd go to work, get off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon after cutting meat and filling up the case, and come home and build houses. He'd build 1 house per year. He would hire subcontractors to do the framing, things that took 2 guys. But I learned growing up about picking up blocks and swinging a hammer and all that kind of stuff, and discovered that I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And so a guy that I met, Bob Edmondson, told me to, he says, you should get into real estate. I'm a broker. I'll hire you. I'll show you. I'll teach you. I'll train you. And so I did that for like 1.5 years until the market crashed. I was 18 and I didn't have any wisdom or experience, and I failed miserably at it. But during the course of that time, he told me to go to Walnut Creek, California, to a motivational seminar for 1 day. Now, back in 1972, a motivational seminar was kind of new and kind of cool. And so today, if I said, hey, how would you like to go to a motivational seminar with me? We might all say, oh, yeah, that burns off. That doesn't really make a huge difference. So no, but back then it was cool. And the third guy, John Floor, Zig Ziglar, but the third guy, Cavett Roberts, who spoke, just struck my heart. I was just awestruck. And my heart was full of passion. And I believed in myself. I believed that I could do anything. And then when I got home, I was talking to Bob Edmondson, and he told me, I want you to read this book. Now, you might want to write this down. This is a good book, and it's not mine. It's by Og Mandino, the greatest salesman in the world. And it's not necessarily about selling, but there's a practice and an exercise in the book that I did for those 30 days. And it changed my life. My ignition of passion exploded, and I had no wisdom or equipment to be successful, but I was going to try. I was going to be on the playing field, or as Teddy Roosevelt says, the man in the arena, and play it all out. So when I left the real estate business because I wasn't equipped and the market crashed and whatever, I said I still want to do sales. So I went to an employment agency, and I told them I wanted to get into sales. And I landed a job at KQMS Radio, 1400 on your AM dial in Redding, California, and made 22 sales calls a day in my car on stores to try to see if I could talk them into buying advertising on our station. And I did that for a couple of years. And I was making $1,800 a month in 1974. And I was frustrated because I wanted more. And I talked to my general manager at the station, Harry Barker, and he told me, Dan, you don't have to figure out what you're going to do until you're 35. And I said, what? He said, no, really. I go, why? And he said, because if you're successful at it at 35, in 20 years, you'll be 55, and you can create super success in those 20 years. So I said, okay. So one of my clients I was calling on was an E.W. Hahn regional shopping center. They own 42 malls across the country. And he said, I like you. You're passionate. Why don't you come to work for us and buy advertising instead of selling advertising? And so I contacted him. I interviewed in Los Angeles, and I took the job and went to Antioch, California, to County East Mall. And I became the operations manager of County East Mall, a regional shopping center. And bought advertising. There, they started teaching us how to create advertising. And so after a couple of years, I was ready for a promotion, and they told me that my wife and two very small children would be moving to East LA and taking over a manager of a shopping center. And that became unacceptable to me to move my children to Los Angeles back then. Right, wrong, good, bad, I don't know. I said no, and I came back, came back home. And there I found a man named Bob Stovall who owned an advertising agency, and I began working for him. And was an account executive selling new clients on using us to create their advertising, and then placing the ad buys and doing all that stuff. And after about a year, he was kind of a wonderful guy, but a bitter guy. And so I left, and I opened up my own advertising agency. And for 10 years, I had 400 clients that I did their advertising for. So I had sold advertising, I bought advertising, I created advertising, full service advertising agency, and that was a great run. Now, in an effort of humility, I had an affair, and I got a divorce. And my bad, absolutely, and sold the advertising agency and signed a 200-mile non-compete clause. I could not do advertising within 200 miles of that location because they were afraid that I would just move across the street, open up, and take all those clients back that they bought the advertising agency for. And so I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, and there worked for an advertising agency. And one of the clients there said, I want you to come work for me. And I said, I work on the advertising agency side, not on the client side. He says, what would it take? And so I said, no, not really. He said, just tell me, what would it take? And so back in 1985, I said, $80,000. He said, okay, great. When can you start? So I began doing the vice president of marketing for a manufacturing company in the Bay Area. And after 2 years, another guy called me and said, I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I want to fly out to San Francisco and meet you. And so, no, I'm good. He said, no, just meet with me. And so I met with him, and he said, what's it going to take for you to come to work for us and do what you do for United Security Products for our company? And I said, I don't want to move. I'm good. And he says, what's going to take? And I said, you pay for the entire move and give me $100,000 a year. And so he said, okay, fine. When can you start? So I did that for a couple of years. And then the previous chairman of the board of the company I worked for in the Bay Area called me back and said, I want you back. And I said, no, I'm good. And he said, what's going to take? I said, well, I'd want to be president of the corporation. I'd want to have control over all the operations and manufacturing and everything. And he said, okay, come back. So I came back as president of United Security Products and ran that. And then when I left there, when I left United Security Products, I said, I have learned and read a ton on leadership and what makes a company successful, and I'm passionate. And I want to share these ideas with lots of companies, not just, one. And so in 1997, I opened up an my executive coaching business. And back then, people would ask me in 97, what's an executive coach? We never heard of that before. There was nobody doing it. And so I would share my principles of what I learned and how to share it full of passion. And finally, on August the 4th, 1997, I got my first client, John Hamm of Whistle Communications. And I did not know it, but he was a rock star in Silicon Valley. I didn't know it. And after 3 months, I asked him for a paragraph recommendation on the value of the work, and he did. And I put it in the direct mail going out after that. And I had 4 or 5 new people call me within a month and say, if you're coaching John Hamm, you got to come see me. I can't believe John Hamm's got a coach, whatever that is. So I wound up doing that. That's when I left and I went to South Lake Tahoe and I bumped into Dr. Leo Buscaglia. And it was the hug that changed my life. Because I had been showing up to my clients and saying, hi, I know your time is valuable and important. What are you facing today and how can I help? It was about the work. And after I got the hug from Leo and I realized it's about human connection, that they're alone at the top and they want to matter. They want to be loved. They want to belong. And it's lonely at the top. And so when I would go in to meet a brand new client, I would say, hi, it's so great to finally meet you. How are you? Tell me about your life. And it was personal. It was connection. And within 1 year, I had 31 CEOs I was coaching. And then executive team offsites were on the weekend because I was booked up. I give credit to God for all of that, but it was exploding. A side note to inspire you about your life and your work, whatever you're passionate about, you'll be great at. And when you're great at it, you'll make really, really good money. My inventory is time. I only have so many hours in the day that I can coach. I can't make more time. And so in the beginning, my executive coaching fee, when John Hamm said at the end of our meeting, okay, let's get started. Let's do it. I said, great. And I stood up and he told me 2 things. He said, first, my CFO is going to want to know what this costs per month so we can put it in the budget. And on the fly, I said, $1,800 a month. And he said, okay, fine. I didn't position it as a 2-hour coaching session for $1,800 because that would mean $900 an hour. I said $1,800 a month, and I meet with you once a month, and you can call me anytime in between sessions for no additional charge. And he said, the second thing I need to tell you, I go, what's that? He said, lose the suit and tie. This is high tech. So from that moment forward, I started wearing jeans, and I fit right in, and it was great. So that's how I got to executive coaching. What inspired me to do so. The next question, and Heidi, if there's something that is a question or something else that needs to be addressed, please chat room me or something to let me know. Okay. Oh, I see that there's 4 down there. Are those someone else or me? I love the story about your wife. Okay, seeing you here. Okay, great. Okay, cool. Dan, you can switch to gallery view to see everyone. Here, gallery view. Thank you. Oh, look at that. Great. Okay, cool. So first question, how do you show an executive how to mine their passion and grow? And how do you coach passion to leverage commitment to become larger than fear? In this instance, I can tell you, but that's teaching, and we tend to forget what we hear. I'd like to go to experiential mode, where every single one of you can experience this principle, and so you'll own it and have it forever. And so in order to do that, I'm going to need one volunteer to play with me while the others are taking this on for themselves with their own life. But by experiencing it and having it modeled for you, you'll get it. Is there someone who might be willing to participate? I will not embarrass you, and you do not have to. I won't probe and pry to where you'll get embarrassed, and so it's a very safe environment. But will someone like to participate with me? Who's there? Oh, I got 2 screens to look at. Do you see Heidi? Heidi, do you see that, or do you want to do it?
Okay. Sorry, I was like distracted. To answer, to be your volunteer, or can I see people? Andrea, you be a volunteer. I think you'd be a good volunteer. I'm volunteering you.
Okay.
Oh,
Come on,
wow.
Andrea, you can do it.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for being forced to volunteer.
Hi, Dan. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
hi, nice to meet you. Are you up for this? You want to
Yeah,
play?
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm
Good.
excited.
Cool. So I'm going to be addressing the questions that I ask her to every single one of you. I'm going to request that you stop thinking, empty your brain, listen to your heart, see what comes up for you. As I go through this with Andrea, I want to be going through this with every single one of you. So suspend thought, conversations, stories in your head, judgments about anything. Just be with this in the present moment, okay? So here's the deal. Andrea, I'd like for you to look forward in time, like say 2 years. If I had a magic highlighter and could wave it over you and guarantee you that your wildest dreams could come true, assured, how big can you dream? What would you love to have happen? Where would you like to be 2 years from today on November the 3rd, 2022? What would be great in your life? A relationship, a new car, a new job, a promotion, travel to Italy. I don't care what it is. Just tell me what would be great for you.
I think ideally I would find someone to share my life with and have a family with. And we would have enough money in the bank to not worry about anything. We'd also be able to travel anywhere we'd like to go across the globe and provide our children with every and any opportunity they can possibly dream up, whether it's acting classes or dance classes or um, just like going to Disney for the day.
Okay.
Um, I want to have the financial freedom that allows me to be 110% present in my children's lives.
Yes, I love that. So tell me what kind of dollar, and there's no limit here, what kind of dollars are we talking about here in 2 years from today that would represent that financial freedom you're talking about? Now, I want you to dream big.
Um, if I could make six figures, I think that would be comfortable. They say that super wealthy people are extremely or more happy than average. So I think that if we could just live a really comfortable life, I think that that would be great. So
Okay,
six figures,
so $100,000.
yes.
Okay, now now bear with me. I'm in your corner. I love you here, but I didn't ask you what would be comfortable. I asked you what would be great. Money is just a tool. It doesn't make you happy, and it can't take away from your happiness depending upon what path you take in your brain about it. So, what would be great for money?
Um, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me. When you
How
say
much
what would
money?
be great for money,
How much money would it take for you to go, oh, wow, yes?
um, probably 200,000.
Okay, all right. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go with me on a visual journey, all of you, with whatever you came up with in your life. I want you to go with me and project yourself forward 2 years from today. It's November the 3rd, 2022, and I've come back to visit you again. And I said, congratulations. I just want to tell you how proud and happy I am for you to be making 200,000 and you put money away. And you and your significant other you found and families on the way. This is great. Tonight, November the 3rd, 2022, how do you celebrate? You have that significant other. The path is clear. The money is present. Do you go out to dinner tonight? Do you book a flight to go somewhere to travel?
Oh my gosh, I feel like there's so many possibilities.
I know. What comes up for you? Don't think about it.
Without thinking about it, I think that I would probably want to uh, order takeout from our favorite restaurant and sit on a beautiful back patio, listening to ocean waves and just enjoy my time with my family and my children.
Great. You can change your mind, but pick a place where that patio looking at the ocean is. Is it
Uh,
California? Is it Nice? What?
Probably Hawaii.
Hawaii. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Can you please do me a favor and visualize a picture in your head of what that home looks like with that balcony overlooking that beach? Picture it in your brain.
It has massive windows from ceiling or ground to ceiling. And lots of
Okay.
natural light. And it's
Okay.
nice and
Now,
airy.
do you, this night, November the 3rd, 2022, sitting on the balcony near the end of the day, looking at the sunset, it goes from an intellectual knowledge of we're making 200,000 a year and I have the significant other in my life. It drops down in 18 inches, that long distance into your heart. And you know, oh my goodness, we're there. We did this. Do you drink this night? Do you have a glass of wine or champagne, or you just go with Diet Coke or what?
We definitely drink a bottle of wine.
Great. So I want you to picture the bottle of wine on the little glass table sitting between you on the balcony, looking at the ocean in Hawaii, and the realization of $200,000 a year sinks in. You raise your glass to your significant other, and they realize, oh my gosh, this is really good. And you toast. What does that person say to you?
They say, I know you really worked hard for this, and I want you to know that you've earned it, and I'm so proud of you.
Mm, that's nice. That's nice. When we went through this visual journey, Andrea, did you notice anything in your body stirring, like the hair on your arm stand up, or a churning in your stomach, or a lump in your throat? Did you notice any physical change in you as you visualize that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was almost like a high, just like being able to dream up the possibility of it and think that, with the efforts I can put forward, um, lots of time, energy, and effort, it's a possibility. And
So,
at some point, hopefully, it'll be recognized.
so what would recognition look like when it comes?
Um, for me, the ultimate recognition, I think, would be my mother. um, I guess just like realizing that I was capable of great things and appreciating it and being supportive of it.
Now go with me to a location where your mom and you are alone. Now you know her and you know her face. I would like for you to see her say that recognition to you in this present moment as though it were happening right now.
That makes me super emotional. I guess I desire that because I'm not sure that it's something she's capable of.
I'm going to tell you, I know human beings really well. Over the last 40 years, I work with, probably 20,000 people. The last 23 years, I work with 5,000 executives, 500 of them CEOs, and I know she's capable of that. It may not be something that you've recognized or realized before, but when you said it makes you super emotional to visualize and picture that. I want you to know that what you just experienced, hopefully every one of you, what you've experienced is the ignition of a small passion in your heart. That's how we find our passion. Now, a passion is like a little seedling of a tree. It's planted in the soil in your life, and it was cool, but the ego, the second part of our being, is going to want to pluck it out and say, that felt really good, but that's not really likely to happen. Gosh, that was just really fun. But, come on, don't kid yourself. The ego's job is to protect you from pain. Oh, by the way, there was several questions we'll get to. How many of you realize that there's two entities inside you? There's the true you, and then there's the ego. Do you recognize that there's two entities there? Do you ever catch yourself talking to yourself in your head, on the toilet, in the shower, driving, and you're talking to yourself? I should do this. Oh, no, that won't work. Okay, fine, I won't do that. No, I really want that. That conversation going on is because there's two entities inside of you. There's you, and there's your ego. Now, the ego wants to hide in the last place you'd ever look and pretend it doesn't exist. The ego says, I am you. Listen to me. My job is to protect you from pain. Your ego would be tickled pink and happy as can be if you never achieved anything in your life and you totally played it safe all the time, because you were successfully able to avoid pain. But yet you have yearnings inside, but the ego wants to squelch them. So if you have that seedling called the ignition of passion about picturing your significant other next to you on that glass table with a glass of champagne, looking at the ocean, and that sitting across from your mother and having her say, I just got to tell you, I am so proud of you. You've just accomplished a ton. This is great. I'm so proud of you. If we dare picture that, that passion begins to grow a little stronger. And pretty soon that seedling becomes a sapling, and the trunk of it is 3 inches in diameter. And now it's difficult for the ego to pull it out. And we nurture it and we feed it and we come back to this vision and we add more detail to the vision. Where would you and your significant other go on vacation when you came back from your house in Hawaii? Would you always wanted to go to Nice or Paris or where? Now picture what it would feel like to fly first class there and enjoy that place. Your passion will continue to grow. If you feed it, it continues to grow until it becomes a tree of a trunk that's 12 inches in diameter, and now you can't even pull it out with a tractor. Now your passion owns you. Now what's significant about that? I believe that in our lives, whether it's personal relationships or whether it's in business, there's a battle going on between my passion and my fear. Those are the two. And if my passion grows large enough, my fear scurries off into the corner. It no longer drives my show. I show up being bigger than life. I show up wanting to take risks, calculated risks, wise risks. And pretty soon, I want you to grasp this and understand it, that your thoughts that you allow yourself to think, are they beating you up or are they supporting and building your passion? Your thoughts drive your emotions. The sum of your thoughts over the course of a couple of hours will drive your emotions. Your emotions are what drive your actions, words, and behaviors. Your actions, words, and behaviors always drive your outcome. If you want a different outcome, the only lever we have is the thoughts that we allow ourselves to think in this moment. So take control of your thoughts. Stand guard at the door of your mind with a gun and say, no, I'm not going to let those disempowering thoughts come in and take residence. And the ego goes, but look at the facts. You don't have the education. You don't have the connections. You don't have the money. You can't do that. No, I'm going to stop that. I'm going to arrest it. And I'm going to say, I will find a way. I am capable. I can make this happen. How many of you believe in the concept or the theory of brainwashing? Like it exists. Okay, many of you. Here's the deal. Never let anyone brainwash you. Duh. But if brainwashing works, why don't you brainwash yourself about what your life stands for and what you want to accomplish? The 8th miracle of the world is that a person can change their life by changing their thoughts. It's really true. Is it a lot of work? Yeah. Consistent work? Yeah, a lot. All the time? Yeah. Is your life worth it? Yeah. Yeah, to have a life worth living, it's worth that work. To pay attention to what I'm thinking, to pay attention to what I'm feeling, and to have a conversation about, no, that's disempowering. I'm not going to go there. Did any of you feel the experience in your own stories that you came up with about your future a couple of years from now on this day, November 3rd, 2022? Did you feel any tingle? Nod your head if you did. No? You did? Okay. Good. Good. Let's get on with the questions. And interrupt me if there's something that comes up for you. What inspired me to write my book, Confessions from the Heart of an Executive Coach? That's an easy one. My passionate daydream is to make a difference, a positive difference in people's lives, as many as I can. And I thought, at 66 years old, I'm not going to live that long. If I wrote a book, here's the visual image that I grabbed for myself. I picture some 22-year-old walking through a garage sale 15 years from now and finding this book all bent up at a garage sale, and he picks it up for 50 cents and takes it home and reads it, or she reads it. and it transforms their life. It's the key that opens the door, and it makes a difference in their life. And I've been dead 10 years. That's cool. That's cool. The very first MTV video by Dire Straits had the line in there, money for nothing and your chicks for free. That's what that feels like for me, is to make a difference. And I'm not even here. That's why I wrote the book. In your TED Talk, you mentioned that our personality clashes are the result of our ego. Can you give more samples that support the idea? Yeah, the ego says, I am you, and my job is to protect you from pain everywhere, all the time. And so two clients of mine, a CEO calls me and says, I've got two clients that are arguing with each other, and now they're building camps. You know, half the company's supporting one guy, half the company's supporting the other. And so can you, conflict resolution, can you fix that? And I said, I believe I can. And they go, how long will it take? And I said, one day. And I'm answering another question you guys have asked. What difficult things have you addressed and confronted in this conflict resolution work? And so I meet with the first vice president for 2 hours in the morning at 10 o'clock. The day before, I met with the CEO, and I said, you know that these two guys who are arguing and their egos having them dig their heels in, you know that it will destroy the team, because they're starting to build camps now, people who support one versus the other. And so I want to ask you, teams win, individuals don't. Are you willing to let one of them go, fire them tomorrow afternoon if we can't fix this? Is it that important to you? And he said, yeah, I would be willing to let one of them go if it can't be fixed. I said, okay, great, then we can fix it. So I meet with the first one at 10 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. And for 2 hours, I say, tell me what's going on in your heart, what you feel about Bob, this other guy. And they'll go off for 2 hours building a case for why they're right and Bob is wrong. And they'll just rail on him and tell me all the things he did wrong. And I said, great, I have not interrupted you, and I've heard everything you've had to say. You have been completely heard and understood. Thank you. I'll get back to you. We're going to meet again later. And I meet with the other guy. And I'll say, tell me what's going on with Charles, why you have a conflict with him. And he goes off for 2 hours, and I don't interrupt. And I make sure that each of them know in their bones that they have been heard and understood. And I said, okay, great, thank you. Now we're going to meet the two of you guys and me for an hour and a half. And I meet with them and I say, now look, here's the deal. I met with the CEO yesterday, and I told him that if we could not solve this conflict, that would he be willing to fire one of the two of you today at 5 o'clock? And he said he would. I said, okay, great. So we've got an hour and a half to see if we can work this conflict out between the two of you. Otherwise, one of you are going to go home with your final paycheck and address your significant other and explain why you couldn't play well you couldn't play well with others in the yard. So what do you guys want to talk about? And I shut up. Now there may be silence for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I will not speak. And they process in their head the negative emotion of having to go home and confront their significant other and explain why they got let go of today because they couldn't get along with the other guy. And pretty soon one of them speaks and says, well, actually, it's not all his fault. I could have handled that meeting better. I didn't need to say what I said. I was just having a really bad time. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer that day, and I was just scared and irritable. And I didn't mean to do that. I shouldn't have done that. And the other guy will say, I'm sorry, I didn't know that occurred in your life that day. I could have not copied my emails to not only you, but also to the wrong people, other people building a camp. I didn't handle myself well either. They're trying to outdo one another to make sure that they show up and own their own bad behavior so that they're not the one who gets fired. And during the course of the next hour and a half, they share their own faults with each other and how they were responsible for contributing to it. And they wind up realizing that the other guy isn't the enemy. And so they kind of resolve it. And I say to them, I said, it sounds like you guys have resolved it. He goes, yeah. I said, great. So here's the deal. Now, I'm an old guy, so, politically correct stuff, in this instance, here's what I do. I say, I want you guys to stand up and shake hands. And they do. And I said, great. Now, here's the deal. To know in my heart, when I give a recommendation to the CEO that you actually solve this, I'm going to ask you to hug each other. And I don't mean a bro hug. I mean a full embrace hug, like a Leo Buscaglia hug. And if I see that, then I know that you've actually reconciled. And so they do. They hug each other. And then we go meet the CEO and I say, we solved it. He says, really? I go, yeah. And they share, each one of them share a little bit about how they were wrong. And then I say, I need to prove it to the CEO because he's not believing it. So I need you guys to shake hands. And they smile. They know what's coming. And I say, now hug each other. And they hug each other in front of the CEO. And he goes, I can't believe it. Wow. I didn't do the work. I just lovingly let them know the consequences of what's going to happen so that they got humble and get off their personal stories and reconcile with one another. We have to reach an emotional bottom in order to kill the ego, unfortunately, sometimes. If I'm not willing to humble myself, life will humble me. In your TED Talk, The Hidden Truth About Human Connection, if we're to own, we are our own obstacle that needs to be dealt with before the actual problem. How would we go about that if we can't conquer ourselves? One, we can conquer ourselves, and we do so by taking control of the thoughts that we think. And we can reconfigure, re-engineer our attitudes. We can do that. And now, to be really honest with you, oftentimes there are things in my life that are larger than me, which makes it feel like I can't conquer this in me. I've been spending 20, 30 years with this pattern of thought. I have emotional baggage and wounds of the past that are driving the show, and I can't get off of it. And so sometimes there are things that are bigger than me. And that's why I suggest to my clients, turn to God. That is the power greater than yourself that you believe in. I'm not saying my God. I'm not saying my religion. I don't care. But 80% of America, when asked, do you believe that there's a power greater than ourselves? There's a deity, there's a God. 80% raise their hand and say, yeah, I believe there's probably a God. I say, great. Then ask for the power from that God of your understanding for help. And it works. It just works. Okay, next question. What are the critical first steps an individual should take in overcoming fear that they may face in their personal and professional life context? Great question. When your passion for what you do want grows larger, fear diminishes. Do you have the courage to dare to dream about a brilliant future? There is a fear that can prevent us from dreaming of a better future to make fear go away. But it's just a decision. It's just a decision. I state today, I am going to be willing to dream of a better future. And I'm going to shut the negative effects, coming into my brain away, those ego talk. I'm going to shove that away, and I'm going to dare to dream. What do you really want? What do you really want? Most of us do not know. In 1985, 86, I went through a program in San Francisco called LifeSpring, and it was like 114 days, and it was really, really rigorous about self-exploration. And one of the exercises we had was to sit across from another participant in the class within 3 inches of having our knees touch. So you're close proximity, but you're not touching. And my job for the first 10 minutes was to look at this individual and ask, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? They can say whatever they're going to say. It doesn't matter. Just come back when they stop speaking with, what do you want? And so I sat across from this 25-year-old woman and asked her what she wanted, just doing the exercise. And she said, I'm going to pay off my car. I want to be debt free. I want a bigger apartment. I want to find a significant other in my life. I want to pay off all my bills. She just went through the whole litany of things she was thinking she wanted. And I kept asking her, and she emptied her brain out to where there was nothing left. But my job was to still ask, what do you want? What do you really want? And at the end, like 7 minutes into it, she put her hands in her head and she started to cry, bawl. And I just sat there with her. No judgment, no interruption, just let her be with that. I was with her in whatever was coming up for her. And I said, what was that? What came up? And through her tears and jerking voice, she said, I just want my dad to love me. That's what I really want. She was able to get in touch with what she really wanted. Then she turned the tables and did the exercise with me. And at the end, the facilitator of the exercise said, "I want you to take courage in reaching out to go for what you want." So she called her dad, and they had dinner. And she said, "I realized something during this exercise that I did, that I don't really feel like you love me. And I realized that I desperately wanted that." And it melted him. And they broke through on their separation, and he got real because he was moved. And they became very close. But until I find out what I really want, I can't go for it. So I'd like for the rest of the day for you guys to pretend that I'm lovingly in your face and asking you, what do you really want? Really, what do you want? What do you want? And see what comes up for you from the subconscious mind. The prefrontal cortex is thinking, rationalizing, logic, telling stories, having an argument. That's like your RAM memory. But the hard drive memory, all of your life experiences, hopes and dreams and desires and everything, is resident in your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind never usually grabs the microphone and blurts out what is real for it. We have to get quiet. We have to ask a question. The subconscious mind takes on that question as a query and percolates on it overnight. And the next day when you're, like I said, sitting on the toilet or standing in the shower or driving somewhere, it will come to you as an epiphany, an aha moment where you go, "Oh my gosh, I just got this. This is what I really want." It will come to you when you ask, consistently, persistently ask. It will come to you. And once you identify what it is, protect it with everything you can. Don't let it get crushed by the ego. Don't let it be diminished or discounted or removed. Stay with it. It's what you really, really want. Here combined is two questions that are different but still connected to the same answer. Have you ever had a client that has opposing views from what you had to say to them? And if so, how did you handle it? When was the hardest time you had to mediate during coaching session? The hardest time was mediate was the two guys that one was going to get fired the next day. That was the hardest one. But have you had any clients that have had opposing views from what I had to say? And if so, how did I handle that? One, come from love. I say, what is going on with regard to your feelings and emotions about a conflict or about an obstacle or about a major fear of what's going on in your business life? And they'll tell me, "Well, I'm concerned about my board of directors. They said that I needed to do this, I need to do that or whatever. And it's really bothering me." And I'll come back and I'll say, "Have you thought of this? Look at it this way. Have you tried this? This is what I found to work." And I give them my answer. And then they'll come back to me and say, "Well, Dan, I hear what you're saying, but I would argue that these two vice presidents, with the amount of money they're being paid, they ought to just get along." They'll push back with their opposing view of what I've suggested that they do. And what I have said to them, and I said, "Oh, I get it. Yeah. So it's your money for this coaching session. It's your money, soon to be mine. What would you like to talk about then? Because it sounds like you've already got the answer." Okay. "Oh, wait, I am paying for your advice and I'm not taking it. And then I'll go so far as to say, it feels sometimes as a coach like you've purchased a guard dog, me, and yet you still want to stand in the yard and bark yourself." Does that make sense? You're asking for and paying for my thoughts, ideas, and opinions and discounting them right out of hand. Do you notice what's going on, why you would be resistant? What's going on that you would say, "No, that won't work"? If you've been trying what you feel would work for so long and it hasn't worked, why would you be opposed to a different idea? You're the CEO. You can do what you want. I love you either way. I don't need to be right. It's your call. Come from love and call out what you see in a loving way. If you can say anything to anyone, if you authentically have love in your heart when you share it, and their defenses won't come up. They won't be offended. Gosh, there's so many places I want to go with this conversation. How much research and information do I gather before I meet with a client? I do no research other than I'll go on the website and I'll look at the company. I'll see how large it is. I'll see, I'll look at the research on the website. But my first meeting with a client is my research. I say, tell me everything you can about you. I don't coach the title of CEO or the vice president. I coach you, the human being. Tell me about your life. Where were you born and raised? And I find out everything I need to find out. Like someone may say to me, and they'll say something like, well, I was born here and then I went to there. And I actually went to 16 different schools in those 12 years of, before I graduated high school. And I say, tell me why that occurred. Well, my father was in the military and he was being transferred all the time. And so I moved around, with that. Oh, okay. So it helps me understand a lot about the individual when they explain to me what they've gone through and what they've done and why they did it. So I do my research when my first client meets, when I actually do the research, getting in relationship with them. Okay, so question, what is an effective way to discuss ego with individuals projecting their egos? And is it possible to really connect with and love someone who can't let go of their ego or pride? Yes, it's easy. And it's okay. Can them when they're projecting their ego and when they can't let go of their ego. You know why? Because love is not a negotiated thing. I forgot to tell you about. Look, here's the deal. I'm a coach and I'm going to address this class today and I want to speak to you guys and I want you to be open and I want you to listen to me and I want you to let go of your pride. And if you don't, that's fine, because love is unconditional. It does not have strings attached to it. You don't have to show up any way to me for me to love you. It's okay. That's your stuff. I'm here. I do not base my self-esteem, my peace, my contentment based upon how you respond to me. If I do that, I'm giving away my contentment and my peace and my joy and my fulfillment. I'm giving it away to you to have some influence and control over. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be responsible for my state of being. Abraham Lincoln once said, because he fought depression most of his life, he said, I believe that a man is about as happy as he makes up his mind to be. So I'm going to make up my mind to seize my thoughts, control them, to direct my emotions, take the stand that I have in my life about things, and lovingly share it with you. And if you can receive it, great. If you can't, that's great. Doesn't matter. And the best way to have someone drop their ego is for them to recognize that they have been heard, they matter, they belong, and they don't have to respond a certain way to still have my love for them. My love is unconditional. It is a gift. If it's conditional, it's not love. It's a negotiated contract I forgot to tell you about. I'll do this for you if you do this for me. That's not love. Love is only love when it's free, no strings attached. And you don't have to love me back. That's okay. I'll still love you. Oftentimes I find with all of us as human beings, we're all flawed. We live in a flawed world. It ain't perfect. It ain't right. It isn't going to, whatever. And so there's so much emotional baggage and wounds that people have picked up along the way that they can't get off themselves. You see, they're suffering and they're in pain. And so when they're suffering and in pain, who are they thinking about all the time? Themselves. I got to get out of this pain. I need you to agree with me so I can build my self-esteem that my position on a matter is right. I need you to agree with me. And I'm going to push hard to get you to do that. It's when I see someone who's cantankerous, like hugging a porcupine that I'm with, when I see someone, really, strong, in a negative way or whatever like that, I don't look at them as the enemy. I don't have my defenses come up and say, oh boy, they're wrong. Boy, that's, I'm going to judge them. I don't judge them. What I'm going to say is I'm going to go, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to them because they've got a lot of wounds, a lot of unprocessed emotional baggage of their past. And so that's what I'm seeing is their wounds and their pain. If I love them, they may open up to me and I can help them with that so they could feel whole and complete, not needing anything from the outside. And when I feel whole and complete, guess what happens to my attention? I'm good. How are you guys? How can I pour into you today? How can I make a difference in your life? I get off me when I'm good. So my first job is to make sure that I address my emotional baggage and get clear and get clean and forgive rather than carrying a resentment. If I have a resentment, who's carrying it? Me. Who pays the price? Me, not them. They may have forgotten what they did 5 years ago, but I'm still carrying it around, and I'm justified and right. And you ask me to forgive that person? Why would I do that? They don't deserve that. I don't forgive them for their sake. I forgive them for my sake. Forgiveness is a wonderful, healthy, selfish thing to do. All right, let's go on to the next one. What does one do when attempting to communicate with someone who wants to be heard, but is not open to then listening to you? I love them. They don't have to listen to me. But if I said to one of you, and I had a conversation, a difficult conversation with one of you about something, and I said, tell me everything you're feeling about that. What comes up for you? Tell me about that. And I compassionately and aggressively listen to you. And you spill it out for an hour. And I've got some things I think could help you. But I'm not attached to having you have to hear it. I'm going to go, wow, that's really, I got where you're coming from. I hear your story. It moves my heart. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that in your life. I totally get it. I see the conflict that's going on. Wow. I feel for you. I walk alongside you through this. And I shut up. 99.9% of the time, they'll say, I know I've been heard. I know I'm understood. And I know that I matter to you. So now I'm going to say, okay, so what do you think I should do then? I've created a willing listener. Not jumping in for the opportunity to interrupt and give advice. But if I listen to you, you're going to want to hear what I have to say. And if you don't want to hear what I have to say at the end of that, it's okay. I'll love you. Be well. Take care. Goodbye. Maybe tomorrow you'll call me back because you want to hear. If not, that's okay. My happiness and my satisfaction is not depending upon you wanting to hear me. My happiness and joy and satisfaction is my commitment of showing up for you if you want it. Okay. So, when mediating between opposing cultures, how do I keep my personal bias from interfering? Yeah, I usually have a personal bias on almost everything, like every other human being. And when I sit down, I say, I am here for you. I'm not here for me. I'm here to make a powerful transformational difference in your life today. I'm not here for me to get my point across. So I'm going to let my personal bias go on everything. I'm just going to listen to you. And I'm going to show you that you matter to me and that I care. And then if they ask me, what's my personal bias? What's my personal view on something? I'll lovingly share it. If they don't ask, that's okay. I'll move on. I'll move on. I don't have to have everybody love me, like me, or embrace me, or want my counsel or coaching. I don't have to have that. If we wind up with 5 best friends over the course of our whole life, we are blessed. That's a lot. 5 best friends over the course of your lifetime. The masses are occupied with their emotional baggage. They can't get off themselves. And my heart goes out to them, and I'll let them go. And I'll be available to them to connect, but I don't have to change them. Okay. My question is, does he apply the sentiment of I come from a place of love in my personal life? These things I'm talking to you about, do I apply them to my personal life? And if so, how do my friends and family react to it? Yes. I can't turn this on and off. Like, I'm going to be one way with my clients and another way with friends and family. Do I have it wired? Do I have it nailed? No. I'm a flawed human being too. I have bad days. I hopefully come back immediately and clean it up, ask for forgiveness and whatever, but I try to apply it absolutely, my friends and family. And how does it work there? Just like every other human being, not necessarily good. That's okay. I still love them. Doesn't matter. See, there's a statement that says a prophet has no credibility in his own hometown. In order for you to be an expert, you have, in the old days, we used to say, you have to have a briefcase and be at least 100 miles from home, and then you're an expert. But you can't be an expert in your own home, because they go, I can't hear that from you. Now, someone else can tell them something, and they come back and tell me, and I go, my goodness, I wish I'd told you that like I did the last 30 times. But they can hear from somebody else. It's difficult inside the family. There's a dynamic going on. It makes it difficult. What are the 3 most important things you did in your early life that made you this successful? I found my passion with Bob Edmondson and Og Mandino and the Greatest Salesman in the World. I took a lot of risks because of my passion, and I endured a lot of failures, which taught me. So we think of things as winning or losing. No, 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 no. It's winning or learning. Both are good, even when it's painful. When it's painful, I get the lesson. So go about having a risk life, calculated risks of going for it, and then enjoy the successes and learn from the pain. That's how we grow. 3 most important things in my life: take risks, find my passion, take risks, win, lose, or draw. I learn or I enjoy the success of it. And having my passion conquer my fear, to where I just went for it, because my passion, as I showed you earlier, how to rekindle your own passion, do that. So your passion makes fear go away. When your passion gets larger than your fear, your passion is what runs your life, not your fear. Most of us are really, 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 really reluctant to admit out loud that fear is what runs my life. We're not willing to admit that. And in almost all of our lives, that's what's going on, is that fear is running our life. You meet somebody across the room, you see them across the room, and you want to get to know them. You want to introduce yourself. You want to ask them to dance, or you want to whatever. But often we don't walk across the room and introduce ourselves. Yet we have a desire to. Why don't we? Fear. I don't want to go over there and be rejected. So we don't go for it. The power of your thoughts lead to an emotion over 5 minutes as to whether you're going to walk across the room or you're not. Okay. Again, here we find 3 different questions that are connected like cousins, so I want to address them together. Why is human connection so important to have? And why does our world, mainly this generation, seem so put off by human connection? And what do you think about human connection and technology? Okay, why is human connection so important to have? Because genetically, DNA, we're hardwired for relationship. We're hardwired for connection. We cannot avoid that. There are people like Ted Kaczynski, who isolated themselves in the woods of Idaho and became the Unabomber. We do not do well alone. 5,000, 10,000 years ago, archaeologists have dug down into villages and discovered that early man, even before that, would collect themselves in villages of 70 or 80 people. That was generally the average of the size of a village. Why? Well, because if I want to find a mate, I can't do it in my cave alone, 10 miles from other human beings. And the saber-toothed tiger that comes into the village, if I'm alone, I could be eaten, or my family could be eaten. If I'm in a village, somebody wakes up and yells, and 20 of us come out with our wooden spear, and we can kill the saber-toothed tiger. I can share stories. We are hardwired for human connection. There's no way to get around it. Now, the people can say, I don't need anybody. Have you ever met somebody who says, I don't need anybody in my life? That was happy, full, joyous, and free. They can say that, and they can do that. They can isolate, but I've never seen, met, or read about someone that had a great, happy, fulfilling life with peace alone. We're not hardwired for it. Second part of that question was, why does our world, mainly this generation, seem so put off by human connection? Because human connection always puts you at risk for disappointment, for rejection, for backstabbing, for betrayal. And so I would rather say, I'm John Wayne, I don't need anybody, I'm the Lone Ranger out by myself, and so I avoid pain. How courageous, what kind of courage does it take for a woman or a man to get into a relationship and put themselves at risk for disappointment versus how much courage does it take to be a loner? It's more courageous to be engaged in life, involved and connected. That's where the fruit of life is. Everything is about people. If I said to you, you could enjoy massive success in any endeavor that you want, but I'll guarantee it, but you can't share it with another human being. You won't be written about. You'll be worth $20 million, but you can't take someone with you on a vacation. You can't live in the same house. So I'll give you everything you want as long as we isolate you from people. You'd say, there's no meaning in that success. I want to pay off my mom and dad's house. I want to get into a relationship. I want to go on vacation and I want to windsurf or whatever. Fine, windsurf. Don't tell anybody about it and eat dinner in your room alone. Well, that's not fun. We're hardwired for human connection and relationships. Let's wade into them and come from love and learn and grow and choose who's in and choose who's out for now. They can come back in later on, but be wise. Don't be foolish. Don't say, gosh, this guy seems like he's really bitter, or this woman seems like she's really bitter. I'm going to get into a relationship and make a difference in their life. If they don't want it, we're an intrusion, and that's not love. I'm looking for someone who's open and willing to be in relationship with me, human connection. And I'm not going to judge those that don't. Okay, and then what do I think about human connection and technology? It's the tragedy of our time that we know that scientifically we know that there's a release of dopamine and oxytocin when we get a like on Facebook. And so what we do is we think that I'm going to fill up my tank by getting lots of likes. Unfortunately, what we do is we're not transparent, open, honest, risking, authentic, and vulnerable with regard to our tweets or with regard to our Facebook posts. And so all we're doing is projecting out that one super positive side, hoping to get likes. But you and I both know that doesn't create human connection and relationship. It's a facade. It's a mask. Everything's going great in my life, even if it's not. How about you? And then you feel, I'm the only person out there that doesn't have my stuff together. Everybody else is doing so great. That causes separation. So technology has really damaged our ability to learn how to be in relationship and create human connection. So people are saying, Dr. Fauci said, after this pandemic is over, I think that we need to agree that we no longer shake hands anymore, ever. Even though we know that human touch immediately releases oxytocin and serotonin, the feel-good hormones inside of ourselves. Oh, and let's wear a mask. All of our lives, we've been taught that someone who wears a mask has something to hide or they're going to rob the bank. I can't even see your full face with a mask. That prevents human connection. Let's isolate at home. Prevent human connection, human relationship and connection. Is it any wonder that suicide line incoming calls have increased 800% in the last 10 months? Addiction alone. Okay, these two questions are related. If I could give you one piece of advice on having healthy relationships, if I could give you one piece of advice on healthy relationships, what would it be? It would be to love all and watch for those that are worthy of hearing your story. They're open and safe for you to open up to. If you don't feel like they're safe to open up and share your transparent, authentic self with them, then don't. Move on to the next person. Find those few that are worthy to hear your story and then connect deeply with them. There's a lot of people. There's 337 million people in America. There's a lot to choose from. To find those you can really connect with. And be open to the idea that someone might gain entrance into your inner circle and be worthy of hearing your story. So we're not foolish, but we come from the basis of love all the time so that we magnetically attract those who we do feel safe sharing our life and our heart with. And if you could go back in time and give your younger self one essential key to communication, what would it be? Get off yourself, Dan. It's not about you, man. As long as you're focusing on yourself, you won't connect with others. If you don't connect with others, they won't give you a raise, a job offer, or a promotion, or want to invite you to their house for dinner. As long as you're focusing on yourself, nothing's going to really turn out great. Get off yourself. It's only when I get off of me that I actually get what I want. I really want to be in a relationship, and I want to matter, and I want to belong. So I'm going to braggadocio tell you of all my accomplishments. I'm not going to share these other sides of my life because I'm going to tell you how great I am to hopefully get you to like me. And guess what? You don't. I'm a braggart. I have to get off of me, which getting off of me means I need to process my emotional wounds of the past. I need to look at them in the black and white view, and I need to forgive myself and others, make amends where I have to, take it on, clean it out, and then I'm free. I'm free to show up for you. Okay, so I think that's the list that I've got. I want to open it up to anybody on any question. There's nothing off limit. How do we do this?
I think people can write if you want to, if they're more comfortable in the chat area, or you can just speak up.
Okay. What would you like to ask me that probably would make you uncomfortable to ask, and you know would make me uncomfortable to answer? Go for it. The real question.
I'm trying to think of a question too, Dan. I'm going, wait,
know,
what can I ask?
No, I am not good enough to answer every question about your life. Go ahead. I see Jocelyn.
Yeah. Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I have a
you.
question. I really like organizations, and that's I studied organizational communication. So I am curious about when trust is broken or between two people in an organization. It looks like it's really hard to work that out. Like how like what's the best way to work like with trust to regain it, or I don't know.
Great question. Great question. So say you and I both work in an organization, and trust has been broken. And one of us comes to the other, and I say, look, it seems to me like, because I'm now aware of my thoughts, my feelings, my actions and words and behaviors, I'm the self-examined life, the unexamined life is not worth living. And I've been looking at myself, and I noticed that, you know what, you and I, is it Jocelyn? Is that how you say your name? Jocelyn, it looks as though I can see that there's something between us. You know, I'm not sure what it is. And I just want to come tell you that my professional relationship with you in this organization is important to me. And I want to cop to, admit to, and own and ask for forgiveness for something I may have done that's broken your trust with me. Would you share with me what you feel about me that I may be able to take on and clean up so that we might be able to work back toward creating trust again? I'm going to take responsibility for mending that broken trust. And then you share with me, well, last week you did this, 2 weeks ago you said that, last month you took my job as a promotion, or whatever. I'm going to listen to you, and I have to listen to you and hear you out and say, oh my gosh, I never realized exactly all those things. And it breaks my heart. You know, I see that I probably could have done this differently and done that differently, and I'm sorry. What would it take for you to forgive me so we could start rebuilding trust? It may take a year or two to build trust, and it could be thrown out the window in 30 seconds. And I know it may take time, but I want to show up being worthy of rebuilding your trust. We have to get honest with ourselves and honest with others to talk about the real stuff in order to mend trust. And that means I'm going to need to kill my ego and my pride so I can show up doing that. And that takes courage. Do you guys want to be known for courage? Yeah. It's much easier to just blame the other person, walk away. But I know that my company's not going to win if we're divided. Is it okay for me to sacrifice my future so I can be right about my opinion, my stand on the matter? Did that answer? Cool. So, okay, where's the next one?
We have a good one in the chat area, Dan, from
Okay.
Carolyn. Can you see? It's from Carolyn. How do you know who's
Oh,
worth
hi,
voting?
Carolyn, yes. Yes, Carolyn.
It's in the chat.
Where's the chat? Right here. Okay, cool. How do you know who's worth opening up to? Oh, it'll be an intuitive feeling. It won't be a logical, rational, factual, data-driven answer in your head. You put your toe in the water, and then you put your foot in the water, and then you wade out knee deep in the water to see if it's still safe. We don't jump. So I think that I feel safe around you. And so, Carolyn, so tell me about what are your dreams and aspirations going forward? How could I support you in winning in life? Or tell me about where were you born and raised? You know, whatever. And as I watch you and I notice that you open up, and if I see, my heart believes that you're being open, risking, honest, vulnerable, and transparent, then I'll continue to open up more. Well, let me share a story about my life, you know, and I'll open up more to you. But I put my toe in, then my foot in, and then my, you know, up to my knees before I don't just jump in. It's too risky to willingly put yourself in the path of that kind of big pain when it's not warranted. Brene Brown, in her book, Daring, I can't think of the name of it now. It's a really great book. She says, people have to earn the right to hear my story. So it could happen in the course of 1 hour. We have a human connection that's brilliant, real quick. Okay, fine, I'll open up, but I'm listening to my heart and tell me whether or not it's safer to go further and open up even more. Okay, and so I have to, okay, great. Dare to lead. Thank you very much. Dare to lead. Okay. Is there anything else from someone else? Anything? Something that's bothered you your whole life you'd like to express as a question, or something you're currently facing right now, especially from someone who never usually steps up and asks a question. That's who I'd like to hear from.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for being our guest speaker today. I have a question about, like, if you're for people who might be pursuing their passions, but there's like systemic or larger powers at that prevent them from pursuing their passions. How does one move past that, knowing that there's a larger obstacle that's going to be harder to overcome?
When your passion grows large enough, you believe in your heart, there is no obstacle. If I look at Steve Jobs and Wozniak, they created the Macintosh, the Lisa computer, or not, it wasn't Lisa, it was something else, in the garage of their father. And when somebody told them, you realize that the first PCs are coming out from IBM, you're going to be competing head to head for the personal computer market with IBM. Are you crazy? You're two guys in a garage. Steve doesn't bathe but like once a week. He's wearing Birkenstock sandals, a beard, and dropped out of college. Who do you think you are that you're going to go up against IBM, who has 3,000 people in blue suits with white shirts and ties going around and cleaning IBM Selectric 2 typewriters in offices all over the country? They're equipped to deploy computers. Who do you think you are? His desire to succeed was strong enough that failure, or the obstacles that were perceived, aren't there. It's when your passion grows larger. Now, is there something I'm missing about the question that you might rephrase or articulate to help me understand the insurmountable obstacle? If I have 2200 vision, but I want to be a fighter pilot, I get that. I get that.
I think I'm more so alluding to systemic obstacles that revolve around like power dynamics within like race, class, or gender, and you know, knowing that there's still a lot of injustices and inequities that exist,
Yeah.
preventing some people from pursuing their passions or being amazing, knowing that there are still these obstacles within our social spaces.
Right. I get it. Thank you. I had a woman CEO, Maria, that was Hispanic, and she was CEO. She worked for Motorola, and she launched the StarTAC phone. She was a rock star, and she became a CEO. And she said, I have some issues and obstacles in being a leader of a high-tech firm with men in my organization, me being a Hispanic woman. And I said, what is it? She goes, the problem is that if I feel like I'm direct and clear and strong as a CEO about what we should do, I'm afraid that I'll be looked at as a BITC. And so if I pretend to be the woman so that I don't look like a B, then they run over me. And so it's an obstacle in race and gender that's really confronting me. And I said, I want you to see that that's a story you've created in your mind, reinforced by the rest of the world. That's a lie. It doesn't have to be so. I want you to own who you are, always do the right thing, and say, look, here's the deal. You guys report to me. I care for you, but I don't care how in your mind I show up. If you want to call me a B, call me a B, but not to my face. But I care about you, and I'm going to always do the right thing, and I'm going to be a leader. And I have a soft side, and I'm going to share that. And if you think that, oh, that's just you being a woman, well, shame on you for prejudging me because of my gender. And I will build a team out that I feel can work together whole and complete and well. And so if you don't feel like you can overcome these things, me looking like a bee or being a soft and squishy woman, if you can't get over that, I'll transition you out and we'll find someone who can get over that. But honestly, walking into that issue helped everybody become aware that that was present, and it stopped, and she was very successful. It's the stories that we create in our head that drive the show, not the reality. Let me give you an example about how we all write stories in our head about everything all the time. Does everyone happen to be looking at me right now? Come on. What just happened? Someone says you were upset. I go, no. I actually had no emotion whatsoever. I contorted my face, I put my hands up, and I said, come on. But you wrote a story about what that meant. And it wasn't true. We write stories all the time about everything, and it's not necessarily based in fact or truth. It's just my self-defense mechanism trying to understand the world. But I get to drop those. We have understandings about Steve Jobs, Larry Ellison of Oracle, Steve Jobs of Apple, Bill Gates of Microsoft, Michael Dell of Dell Computer. I've had clients that directly I've coached that work directly for these guys. And I asked them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, how would you estimate their level of personal passion for success? Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, Michael Dell. And in every instance, they said, oh, an 11 or 12. And I said, I gave you a range of 1 to 10, and you came back and answered 11 or 12. They go, yeah, they bend the needle. They're off the charts. Hyper, with passion. That makes them unstoppable. No considerations. And I go, okay. What else is common amongst all of those? Well, all of them dropped out of college. That's a bad statement to make to a college class. Don't do that. No, don't. Get the education and then seize the passion. Overcome. Passion carries the day when it's coupled with love and you remove your emotional baggage of the past so that you're clean and free to show up for others. Your direct reports, your colleagues, your boss, your customers, your vendors. I want all of them to fall in love with you in a platonic way, to where they go, I support this person in winning. How can I help you? Did that answer your question sufficiently, or do you want me to go further about race and gender?
No, thank you for answering. I think I just see it from a different perspective because I can't separate what what I experience in reality and what is fact in terms of the inequities that still exist today. And I know that's not like something I fabricate in my mind, but
Yes.
it's something that I would approach, a challenge with knowing that it's not my own insufficiency or it's not my shortcoming, but acknowledging that reality, I think is an important thing for all parties involved.
Absolutely agree. I absolutely hear you, and I absolutely agree. And so our opportunity is to say, I'm going to take control of my mind and not embrace and adopt that that prejudice against race and gender. I am not going to adopt that as being a truth for me, even though the rest of the world continues to factually show up looking like that. What I'm looking for is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals that when I show up having it not be an issue for me, it becomes not an issue for them. Those 4 or 5. And the 4 or 5, 8, 10, 12 people that you are in relationship with, because you don't hold it as a consideration, and those 4 or 5 don't either, then they help you get to everything you want in your life. And everybody goes, my goodness, the reality is that the race and gender prejudice and the obstacles and the glass ceiling that stands in the way of all of us like her, how did she do it? How did you break through? He said, because I refuse to embrace it as a truth, even though there's tons of factual evidence around me to show me and try to convince me that it's true. I refuse to be held prisoner by their perception. I'm going to still move forward, regardless what they say or they think or they feel or they do, because I'm going to make a difference in my life and in other people's lives and go for what I want.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to jump on that
Yes.
too. I think, Gina, I think we don't realize what we actually internalize as people because we're fed stuff over and over and over again. And then we start to live out that reality. And I'm not saying that obviously, and I can say this because I am a person of color, because I have experienced prejudice and I am a woman to boot. But I also can say that I'm trying to, how do I say this in the right way? I don't let that also stand in my way. That is not a reoccurring thing in my head. I don't let that tape play. I'm not saying it never plays. I'm just saying that that is not the overwhelming reoccurring tape. And I found that people do tend to treat me differently when I don't have that tape in my head because I'm coming across completely different than what you actually think. Because when we internalize so much, was it our actions? We were talking about this, Dan. Our actions will always follow our beliefs. And if you believe the baloney that's out there, then your actions are, whether you realize it or not, are actually perpetuating in that response. But if you work on not buying into that, then you present yourself very differently. Now, and I think Dan, you would agree, that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to be racist or aren't going to be doing, their thing. But again, it comes back to how am I presenting myself? And if I'm not buying into that, then I'm going to act completely differently than if I did. And it's not going to get to me in the same way.
Yes. And maybe by how I'm showing up and what I stand for, not taking that on, even though it's real and it's present and it's there, I'm going to say, no, that I am not going to act and buy into that story. I'm going to show up, the way I feel I'm going to show up. Maybe I only influence a small circle of people to see me differently. That small circle of people that sees me differently can make all the difference in the world with regard to your future. You actually are going about changing society one small group at a time, and it's worth it. So even though it's real, don't buy into it for yourself. Otherwise, you're playing into it. And I know it's an uphill struggle, an uphill battle. I know. But you're still alive. It's worth the fight. Thank you for that. That was a great question. Thank you. Yes. Someone else?
Can I ask a question, Dan?
Yes.
So my entire life, I'm going back from when I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old, my family would always say, "Oh, you're such a drama queen. Oh, you're so dramatic." And then my teens, again, "You're so dramatic. No one takes you seriously." And now, as an adult, I'll be 35 a week from today. And as an adult, people, even men, will say, "Oh, you're just too much," or "Oh, that's not the way it really happened," or other people will say, like my best friend is so sweet, and she'll say, "You're just very passionate." And people close to me will say, "You're so passionate." And so my question to you is, okay, well, backing up, I know I'm a passionate person, and I know that I'm an extraordinarily empathetic person. And it seems to me like you've really been able to use your passion to your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is like, how do I harness that? How do I use my passion to my benefit? How do I know the people who are not my people because they have said, "Oh, you're too much for me," but how do I find the people that are my people?
Mm-hmm.
And that way I can connect better with those people.
Yeah. You make an absolutely fabulous you. You make a crummy imitation of someone you think you should become more passionate or whatever. So I love that you're embracing who you are and you're passionate. The reason, let's go back just for a second. The reason why some people say, "Oh, you're so passionate. Oh, you're such a drama queen. Oh, you're just too much for me," is because passion is contagious, like sadness. If you get around someone who's incredibly depressed and sad, it's contagious, and you're going to feel with empathy their sadness, and you're going to experience that. If you're around someone that's incredibly passionate, it's going to have them bring up their emotions inside themselves. And so that's uncomfortable for them. They don't want to get in touch with their own personal passions, and they certainly don't want you to show them up by being passionate when they know they're not. And so it's just too much for them. The best way to find your people is keep looking. And the second thing is to try to find groups of people that are like-minded to improve your chances. Like, for example, if you're dramatic and you're passionate, how about going and taking at the college or privately taking acting class? You're going to be around people who are passionate and dramatic. Or where else? I'm going to go to the airport and find a skydiving group and learn skydiving, because I know those people are risk takers and passionate and out there. Where else could we go to find people who are likely in that group passionate, but don't change you for who you are? When we step out and we're passionate and clear and committed and loving, we're going to be in a very, very small group. And it's going to be difficult to find people like us, but it's okay. Along the way, I know I'm making a difference in other people's lives by who I am, by how I am, exactly who I am. It's perfect. You don't need that many. If you had 5 or 6 people in your life that were close to you, that resonated with you, then that can be enough to carry the day. Are you still there?
I am. I lost you for a moment. Thank you so much.
My
I really
pleasure.
appreciate all of your words and insight.
Oh, thank you. What a blessing you are to me with that question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Dan. I had a quick question. What next steps or words of advice would you give to an individual who feels stuck in one season of their life and they can't get to the next season, the next steps where they want to be?
Okay. First, I would get real clear about what the next step that you want to take is, and what direction that would be, and what end goal would be the fruit and the reward if you were able to take those next steps toward where you wanted to go and what you wanted to be. Get real clear as a vision and a picture of what that would look like if you were successful at actually going about doing it. When you visualize with a picture in your mind or a movie in your mind, when you picture yourself successfully gravitating to that new location, you'll find your passion to grow. And in the meantime, the second part of my coaching would be to take baby steps today toward that. Something very small and very simple. These are the next 8 steps I would take if I had the power to move in that direction. Where today I feel stuck, these are the next 8 steps. I would need to write this letter. I would write this email. I would make that phone call. I would read this book. I would introduce myself to someone. Take the smallest steps you can, the safest steps you can at first to get yourself into momentum, taking small actions on a daily basis toward where you want to transform to. And you'll discover that when you take small actions, you get unstuck. When you picture the end result of being completely unstuck and transformed to that new place and picture what that would look like and feel like, you'll find the momentum and the inertia inside of you to take those small steps toward where you want to go. It's a journey. It's not a destination. I just want the destination picture to be so clear and so brilliant. It pulls me forward on my journey toward what I say that I want. Did that do it?
That did. Thank you for your
Okay.
amazing words of advice and encouragement. Thank you.
Cool. You're more than enough to graduate from where you are to where you want to go and to be. I totally know that. I've seen the most unlikely people become successful. All of you have it in you already. I want to say to you, you are perfect and whole and complete, exactly where you are, exactly as you are. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be taken away. You're perfect right where you are. Nothing's missing. Now, we step forward. What would you like to have more on top of this? And we move toward that. But don't come from a place in your heart to where you feel like I'm deficient or not enough. That's a lock. That's a handcuff that'll keep you where you are. Yes, next. Is there anything in the back of your mind, Heidi, that I have missed that would be good to go on and talk about? Is there anything that came up for you that you go, oh, let's talk about this, or I have a question for you, or anything else?
I think you covered what I was thinking. And it was great with the way that you interacted, that you used everything with the questions. I can't think of anything right now, except for, you brought up for me the other day about getting the book published and the query letter and all the stuff, and it got me going. So I didn't even know what a query letter was. So I looked it up and I started looking up literary agents, and I have like a whole website. So, in terms of what you all are thinking, for me too, when I was talking with Dan, it started going, oh, I didn't even know what I needed to start thinking about. It wasn't until I started talking about it that he was able to share that information. And then, it got me thinking. So thank you for that, because now I have little next steps that I'm taking. So it's good. Just even taking those small steps forward actually make you realize, oh, the dream doesn't feel as far away. The passion starts to ignite again.
Yes.
So
yeah. All you're responsible for doing is getting in touch with what you truly want, finding something that makes your neck tingle, and then pursue it and take baby steps every day toward it. It will show up. It will show up. The longest journey begins with yet a single step. One step. Every step. It's a journey. It's not a destination. By the way, success is a place you come from. It's not a place you get to. Because I asked the clients of mine with 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, and I go, has this riches caused you to become peaceful, happy, free, successful? And the answer is no. They asked the rich man, how much money did it take for you to find happiness? And he said, oh, that's easy. Just a little bit more. That's the answer. Money won't make you happy, but there's nothing wrong with having it. It's a lot better to cry in your Mercedes than on a bicycle.
True.
So,
oh, I like the book, The Alchemist. Oops, sorry.
Go ahead. What?
No, Gina was just saying she had to hop off, and she talked about The Alchemist, and that's a great book. Thank you, Gina.
It's great. You can create your life any way you want it to be. You really, really can. And I can believe that and know that to be absolutely true for you. I can know that it won't make any difference until you start believing that in yourself. And so one piece of advice generally I give to my clients is, do you know how we tend to accidentally beat ourselves up a little bit? Would you please do me a favor and get off your back? You can become your own best friend. You can become your own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
You can say inside your heart and your mind, you can say comforting and supportive words to yourself because you choose to think that thought. Please do.
Yeah.
Did you guys, are they familiar with the Leo Buscaglia story of how he wrote his first book?
I don't know. I'm not.
Okay, so Leo Buscaglia was a professor at USC, University of Southern California. And he's teaching a class, and he's gregarious. He's dramatic, passionate. He's teaching this class, and there was a young lady that always sat in the front row, and it was totally platonic, totally professional, nothing romantic or anything like that at all. But she had a smile and a sparkle in her eye, and he always looked forward to going to the podium because he looked down in the same spot, and there's this young lady who had this sparkling, smile and a twinkle in her eye. And all of a sudden, one day, she didn't show up to class. And she didn't show up to class for the next 4 days in a row. And so he did an inquiry. He goes, what's going on with her? Like, I miss seeing her there. And he found that she went back to her dorm on that Monday night and had killed herself. And he said, oh my gosh, never again. That is never going to happen again on my watch. She meant something to me and I never told her. And how could that happen on my watch? And so he went to the dean and he said, I want to start a class. I want to call it Love 101. He was later nicknamed and labeled Dr. Love. And he said, and the dean said, okay, but you realize that that's going to be a non-credited course. And people who are paying to come to USC are not going to take a non-credited course. And he said, that's okay. I still want to do it. He was told the obstacles in the way. And he said, I still want to do it. That class was oversubscribed for the next 4 years in a row. And that's whenever he wrote the book. And that's when he got noticed on television and became a fabulous speaker. Because in the face of being told no, he still went forward. He still made a difference. You guys are so, honestly, I've had an opportunity now to do Zoom calls with Heidi, over the course of a couple of 3 hours or whatever. You guys are so blessed to have an individual like her teaching you. I just know her heart, and she is out there as a woman of color, dramatic and passionate and making a difference. You're very, very blessed to have her in your life. And so I gave you my phone number earlier, 530-615-1427. I encourage you to use it. I want nothing from you. There's no hooks. There's no gimmicks. There's no back end. It's just, I just want to show up for you. So please call me. By the way, if you do decide to do that, because I get a lot of junk stuff, if you could text me and just say, hi, I'm with UNM. Can I call you? Then I'll go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So otherwise it'll come in as an unknown number. So let me know and I will show up for you anytime. If I'm in a coaching session, I'll say, yeah, how about 3 o'clock? Yes, go ahead.
So Dan, what daily actions have led to your ultimate success?
I wake up in the morning, and there are mornings to where I go, oh, I've got to do this today. Oh, and that's not probably going to turn out well. And you see, I just woke up, so I'm not in command of my thoughts. And I discovered that I pretty easily go down here's what I got to do, and it's going to be an average day, and I've got to go this, so I got to do that. And immediately I recognize the path where that leads. And because I'm aware of my thoughts, I'm aware of my feelings, I go, ooh, you're not feeling very strong. You're not feeling very up. You're not going to be able to be there for somebody today. So I do what's called a grateful list every morning. We think of gratefulness as a feeling. And when I feel grateful, then I express gratefulness. No. That's backwards. Gratefulness is an activity followed by the feeling of gratefulness. So in the morning, first thing, I start praying and I go, God, I want to take a moment and I want to count the blessings. I want to thank you that I have a loving wife. I want to thank you there's a roof over my head. I want to thank you that it's the front door locks. I want to thank you that I was born in America as opposed to some third world country. I could have been born there, but I wasn't. I want to thank you for the car that I have in the driveway. And I want to thank you for the fact there's fuel in it. I want to thank you for the fact that I've got a lot of food in the refrigerator, that I'm not going to go hungry today. I want to thank you for that I have gainful employment, that I get to work with these clients. I want to thank you that I get to speak to Heidi Ritchie's class today. I want to thank you that I have a property, 5 acres with a garden. And I have 2 dogs. And Kathleen, my wife, has 30 chickens. I want to thank you that we have eggs every day. I just start counting out. I want to thank you for my health, that myself and my family have not suffered from COVID-19. I want to thank you that I live in a country where I actually get to go vote today, that I can make 1 vote difference. I just count out everything I'm thankful for. And in no time at all, I feel whole and complete and grateful. And now I'm off myself. And now I can focus on others like you. So my activity is a grateful list every morning.
Okay. I will do that. I do that at night, but I will move it to the morning.
Yeah, prime the day, recalibrate
Yes,
it. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
Thank
great.
you.
Cool. Anybody else? Anything? Yes.
Dan, I had another question real quick. You had mentioned earlier a statement about, find your passion, take risks, and then you could also fail. And then you said it's not about winning or losing. What's the end statement there? I missed it.
It's about winning or learning.
Okay, so it's not about winning or losing. It's about winning or learning.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
when I do something right, I go, wow, that was good. That turned out well. I'm going to do more of that. And when I do something and it quote unquote fails, it doesn't turn out well, I go, okay, hang on. This is my opportunity to learn and grow. What do I learn from that? And I'm going to look at what I can pick up and learn from what that setback looked like, which I know places me the odds of my success next time better than today, because I learned something from what didn't turn out well. So I'm going to do it again, but a different way or with a different person. And so I either win or I learn. There is no failing. Failing only occurs when we quit. As long as we're going forward, failure cannot exist because I'm continuing to try. I'm continuing to move forward. Elon Musk was SpaceX. They took the Falcon 5 rocket and tried to launch 2 of them off the gantry and bring them back and land them in the barge in the middle of the ocean. And the first 2 blew up. And they said, how do you feel about that? He says, well, we have just enough money to do 1 more, so it has to work. What was he thinking about? Thinking about the failure or thinking about, no, we're going to do 1 more. I'm going to risk it all. If this one doesn't work, we go bankrupt, but I'm going to go do the next one. We've learned now what not to do or what to change or how to be different in order to leverage the chances of success more in my favor.
Thank you.
There's a Garth Brooks song that I like that says, "Failure isn't failure unless a lesson from it's learned," right? Which is what you
Yes.
just said. It just
Yeah.
stuck in my head, right? It's
Yeah.
only failure if we don't learn.
Absolutely. And when we go about playing like this, you know what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the path of potential pain. I'm going to risk, I'm going to try, I'm passionate, I'm going to go try to do this. And it doesn't turn out well. And I say, okay, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to let the ego say, oh, you should shut down now. You should stop trying that because that's too painful. It's not going to happen. You're not going to win. You know, the race and gender thing is against you, or you don't have enough money. You don't have the connections. You don't have this. You don't have that. I'm going to shut that down and say, no, 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 no. I'm going to keep trying because this is the path to success is failure. When they asked Thomas Edison, we understand today you're celebrating the 2000's failed attempt at creating a light bulb. Aren't you disappointed? He said, no, I'm rather excited. And they go, why? And he goes, I now know the 2000 ways a light bulb won't work, which I know places that much closer to the way that it will. And when his wooden laboratory burned down and he didn't have insurance, they said, well, is that it, Mr. Edison? Are you done in New Jersey? He said, no, we start rebuilding tomorrow. And they said, but we understand you don't have any insurance. He goes, yeah, that's right, we don't, but we start rebuilding tomorrow. And while it was burning down, he called his friends and said, come down and bring your work clothes and a shovel and a wheelbarrow, would you? Because I want you to be helping us clean up. While the fire is still simmering, I want you to help us clean up to start building tomorrow. And the New York Times showed up with a newspaper and took a picture of it. Him and his friends cleaning up while the fire is still going on because he says he intends to rebuild tomorrow. And he doesn't have insurance. Well, how can you say that? Well, I can say that because that's the stand I take on the matter as we start rebuilding tomorrow. And when the New York Times article with that picture came out, the rich people in New York said, Margaret, bring my checkbook to me, please. This is the kind of man that needs help. And they wrote checks to him because of the stand he took on the matter. And they rebuilt. If he had said, no, looks like we're done, I'm over, I don't have insurance, we're over, no one would have sent a check. So the place that he came from in his heart about the future influenced the outcome of having checks come in. Have you guys read Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena? Oh, please do that on DuckDuckGo. I like DuckDuckGo rather than Google because they protect my privacy. They don't track me. But if you go on the search engine and you type in Theodore Roosevelt or Teddy Roosevelt, Man in the Arena, read that. It's not the man who's victorious, who's the winner or the victorious one. It's the man who gets in the arena and who fights the good fight, who's covered in blood and dust and mar. But at least he's a man who has, in the positive, enjoyed victory, or the negative, having lost, having dared greatly. This person is one who, the sad ones are the one who knows neither victory nor defeat. That's just surviving. I don't want you guys to live out your life and survive. I want you to be alive, to go for it. Not a boring life, not a small life. 3% of the people of the country are the leaders who are passionate and bold and creative and take small steps toward what they want, and they change our world. And that's you guys. The ones here at 11:54 that are still on the line, that tells me everything I need to know about you. You are in that successful group. If your desire to succeed is strong enough, failure cannot overtake you. You have what it takes already. You'll gain the wisdom with failure and apply yourself with success and regain humility when you're successful. You can get off yourself and focus on others. And with others rallying alongside you, you and your supporters can change the world, whatever you feel is most important. I totally believe in you. I get it. Absolutely. Anything else? No?
Right.
It has been such an honor to be with you guys. Thank you for letting me into your life today for this time. Just May God be with you. I just can't tell you enough. I hate religion. Religion is man-made. I love God, the God of your understanding, the one that you perceive. Talk to that God and say, do you exist? Why this? Why that? I'm seeking you. It pleases God to seek God, not a religion, not a church. Your personal relationship with your Creator. Just talk to him. And tell him, I'm angry at this. I'm upset about that. I don't like this. Just talk to him. See what happens. There are things in this life that are larger than us. When my cousin Ricky Allen Martin killed himself when I was 19 years old and he was 22, he was the closest thing I had to a brother. There are things in this life that are bigger than what I can handle as a human being. The things that go on and on, I'm not guaranteeing you a safe life, a happy life, just one worthwhile, one worth living, where you're in the game and playing. I want you to be on the front porch of your home at 85 years old and look back on your life and say, I went for it. I have no regrets. Yeah, a lot of winning, a lot of losing, but I went for it. Nobody sits on their dying bed and says, gosh, I probably loved too much. I put myself at risk.
Thank you so much, Dan. I know everybody appreciates, people had to kind of filter off as they got ready for work and other things, but what an impact. Thank you. That was amazing.
No problem.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
I look forward to hearing from you guys someday. All the best to you.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan. Have a good day.
Thank you.